Okay guys, today we're going to be making some Savannah monitor treats. We're going to be making them some meatballs. That's right. And this doesn't have to be exclusive to Savannah monitors, tagus, any lizard that can eat meat, carnivore diet, whether as a treat or as a staple. This is a good thing to do. So I'm going to go over how I make them. Now I use them as a treat, and I do healthy them up a little bit for them, and I want you guys to know you can use these as a treat. If you make them in a batch, you can freeze them and you can thaw them out. They're really good treats, and depending on the size of your lizard, you can vary the size of the meatballs that you make for them. Number one, we're gonna have ground beef. I use ground beef because I like to change it up from a chicken or a fish or a turkey. And that's just what I like to do. Because I like to use these as a treat. So we give him something more of a treat type food, whether it's for him or the skink. So the first thing you want to look at when you're getting the ground beef for them, and I feel like now we're like on Food TV, a cooking show, is the lean to fat ratio. You don't want to make these too fatty, even if they are just for a treat. 86-14, so this is heavily on the lean side. You wouldn't use this for a hamburger you're making for yourself because you might consider it too dry. So that's number one. Then the controversy of feeding a lizard meat, whether it's raw beef, raw chicken, raw turkey, whether you buy breasts or whatever, is the reason why this is normally not good for them is sometimes it could be too fatty, it could be too lean, but also there is a lack of calcium, because when they're eating a prey item, all the bones and all of that's in there and they get all of that. So when you have your meat that you're going to start with, you're also, just like what you would have breadcrumbs, you're going to have calcium powder. And if you've got a multivitamin powder, even better. So you'll hit them up with, your calcium, but then you can hit them up with just all of your, I wonder if that will focus, probably won't. But there we go. You can hit them up with all of the vitamins that is in a multivitamin. So that's really good, really healthy. And then I like to kill and throw in there some dubia roaches. Again, keeping these more as treats, but I want to give him more than just a meatball. So he'll be getting calcium and fiber and non-digestible things to help move this through, and things he's used to eating. Now, if you had these and you had crickets and superworms and this and that, you could smash up a lot of these guys and put all their guts in there, and they're just really good treats. And they'll still pack a lot of good vitamins in there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our meat in our bowl, and then we're going to kill some roaches, put them in there, and then we're going to put some powder on it. So let's do that. All right, doesn't this look delicious? So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit it with some calcium powder. Very good. And then we're going to go ahead and hit it with some reptile multivitamin. A bit more. Very good. All right, now, you could do things. You could put eggs in here because, right, they can eat eggs. If you had quail eggs or smaller eggs, put them in here, especially a lot, again, natural calcium from the shell. That's all great. If you had eggs that you used for breakfast, like I did when I made breakfast this morning. I have 2 eggs. I'm going to smash up these shells, and I'm going to put them in there. Remember, these guys could eat, maybe not jumbo size, depending on the lizard, but a raw egg like this. So these are from organic fed chickens. No antibiotics used on these chickens when they have these eggs. And we're going to crush them up, and we're going to put them in here. Okay, that eggshell's all smashed up. Now we're going to get our hands dirty, and we're going to just smush everything together. For the roaches, guys, I just ripped them in half. You can see some of them still moving, their nervous system, their heads are ripped off, but their guts and everything are going to get in here. So there's really no nice way of getting over this, so we're just going to get in here, make our meat mixture. All right. Yum. So after thoroughly mixing everything, I just went ahead and I formed some meatballs here. If you had uh, unused, bones, maybe you bought a whole raw chicken that you were going to cook up and you deboned it and things like that, you could grind up those bones, put them in here. Really good natural calcium. Things like that. You want to be careful if you are doing real bones, the size of the bones, if you're putting them in whole, because potential to cause a blockage and things like that, depending on the age of your monitor, how well he can digest them or not. The size of the meatballs, if there's nothing really hard in there, aren't too big of a concern, because they're obviously extremely soft. So, one chomp, they're going to just smush and he's going to just suck them down. So this is typically really safe way to do it. Whereas sometimes giving him or her, whatever you have, a raw piece of meat, a strip, especially if it has bone in, that's not as soft. And so you want to worry about, if it's a big piece of bone, if he turns sideways trying to take it down his throat. Most of the time, your reptile, your snake, a lizard will figure out, if the prey is large, the best way to start eating it from, and go for there. Not always, but most of the time they'll be able to figure it out on their own, and you want to let them figure it out on their own. But so we got these mixed up. We're not going to cook them. We're going to feed them to them raw. This is fresh meat. I just had them grind up yesterday, and then we're using it today, so that's good. The one thing you want to do, though, is temperature. But wait, we're not cooking them. Right. But obviously, I keep, this ground meat that I got made yesterday in the fridge, so, because I'm going to use the rest of it for myself, and I don't want it to go bad, spoil. So the meatballs are cold. So being in a container like this, just like you would thaw, well, I guess not like you would thaw a rodent, because you just put the rodent right in hot water. We'll just put this in another container that has hot water in it, and we'll let them warm up. We don't want him to eat cold meat. Could get a respiratory infection, could lower his body temperature, make him sick. Again, blockage. So let's go ahead and bring these up to our correct temp. All right, perfect. So they've gotten nice and warm on top of that hot water bath. So guys, again, I'm going to go over the two things now where people sometimes get messed up feeding meat products to lizards that can eat meat. One is they don't warm them up, so they feed them cold meat. You take a pack out of the fridge, you cut it into strips, and you give it to your lizard or snake. That can be really bad depending on the temp. And then the other one people always ask about, well, what about bacteria? Good question. What about bacteria? So obviously, these animals in the wild, they're out there eating carcasses. They're either catching live animals, or they're coming across a prey that has died by natural causes, or the remains of a prey, the bits and the little pieces of meat that are connected to the bone. That's not the correct bacteria that we should be looking for. The bacteria we should be looking for is what happens after or during the feeding. Here's the biggest problem. So I'm going to feed these to Simba. Now, when I feed him dubia roach or crickets or any type of insect, I don't have to really worry about cleaning his piece of slate right away, even if the insects are on it, because he just picks them up, he swallows them down. When he's eating this, if he gets raw meat on the outside of his face or on the slate, that's the bacteria you want to look at. You do want to make sure you clean up where he ate. Sometimes this is why people will take their reptiles out and put them in a feeding area. That way it's easier to keep clean. So I want to make sure that he's not spreading this bacteria around his enclosure. I want to make sure he doesn't have it all over his face, so when he's rubbing his face in the dirt or anywhere around, he's not putting this bacteria in there, or he's not going for a swim. So, it's not a moist towelette, but if you follow up with a piece of slightly damp paper towel, and we'll see if we need to, and clean up your reptile after he's done eating, that's great. And there's going to be a separate video on that for other reptiles, because a lot of times that can lead to mouth rot. Not necessarily just because they're eating meat products, it's when they're eating anything, including insects, that they should be eating. So these are nice and warm. We've gone over some do's and don'ts. Let's cut to the chase and bring it over to his enclosure. Now, guys, I'm going to feed him one of these in this video, and then I'm going to just stop this video, and I'll make another short video without me talking that I'm going to just feed him the other 3. Okay? Let's do it. All right, guys. Here we are at feeding time. Let's take our ball. Let's get him out. Hello. Oh, yes. He is ready. Very good. Get you in a frame. Let's show everyone you eat one of your meatballs. Great job. Okay, now see how he kind of took that in? Now remember, guys, you would want to clean the tongs after too that you use. So that was really good. He sucked that thing down. He didn't even chew it, much like he would eat a normal egg. So we're going to go ahead and feed him these other ones in another video. But that's really good for him. That's going to really hit him with some meat, some protein, some calcium, because we made those custom meatballs. So I hope that was very informative. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now I'm going to go ahead and feed him some other ones. The last thing I want to add, guys, is I like to have water after that you offer him, because after eating a lot, sometimes I like to suck in a lot of water before they lay down and digest that. All right, guys, take care.